We're back. And tonight we have a special guest, Michael Corwin. Mike, glad to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jacob. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. And as you can see, Ruben is here. I was just thinking about you worked with Ruben, didn't you, at one time?
Yes.
For like
Yeah,
a year?
both of you. Yes, both of you were teaching at Elizabeth at the same time I was. Yes.
Oh my God, it seems so long ago. How does it feel like being retired? I mean, do you miss teaching? What do you miss most about teaching?
I'll tell you, the first year or so, I actually went into a kind of a depression.
Really?
And, yeah, I had to get some help, and it was not having anything to do. After 21 years of teaching at Elizabeth, my daily routine, my weekly stuff was all seriously disrupted, and I had nothing to do, and it was just bad for me. So if I could recommend something for people,
Please.
yeah, have something to do. I tried volunteering at the local animal shelter for a while. I did that. That was okay, but it was I don't know, it wasn't a good fit for me.
Okay.
But I did try that, and people suggested I get into substitute teaching, but my credential had expired, and I just didn't feel like renewing it. So, but maybe I should have. I think in hindsight, that might have been a good idea.
Well, I mean, how long did you teach though? Was it like 25 years or 20 years?
Yeah.
How many was it?
21.
21.
Yeah. I worked at Pacific Bell for 16 years. And then when I was about 40, I got my credential and I went to Elizabeth, and they hired me on the spot. And I thought, wow, I must be really good. It turns out they were desperate for an 8th grade English teacher.
That's right, because you taught English for those 21 years, right? And at the same school and at the same level?
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean,
by the way, Mike, you don't sell yourself short, because you must have done something right when you were teaching. It was middle school. I was teaching reading for pleasure and a couple of English classes, but when I did an informal poll of my students, they had about 5 or 6 teachers, and I said, "What's your favorite teacher?" Corwin.
Oh yeah,
Corwin.
That's nice.
I don't know what secret sauce, but trust me, I went into your class a few times just to see what you were doing.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, same here. I mean, everyone loved you, Mike, and I think even some of the pieces you picked. When I say pieces, I mean books you picked for your class, and like The Outsiders, and I think you did Steinbeck's Little Red Pony, and
Mice and Men.
Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men was probably the kids' favorite book besides The Outsiders.
Yeah.
I was told by other people, some teachers, "Oh, don't do a Mice and Men with these kids. They won't understand it." They absolutely ate it up.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's a lot of bad language in there, so they really like that.
Right.
But I think I found a way to present the story, a chapter at a time, and they just got into it. And I saw tough kids that were in crews and stuff like that, gangster movies. They applauded at the end, and some of them had tears in their eyes. So I think that story really got to them, and they liked that. So
that's great.
I remember walking into your class, Mike, and seeing a drawing you had made of the backdrop or the cabin, maybe perhaps on the ranch of George and Lenny worked at. Wasn't it right that you drew that out?
I every morning I would draw something different on the board. That particular one I would leave up for a couple days because Of Mice and Men is like a play in book form. And that bunkhouse scene is in 2 of the scenes, 2 of the chapters. And, so I kept it up for a while. But yeah, I would get there early. I'd get to my classroom 6 or 6:15, 6:30.
I remember you used to do that. You used to get to school early.
Well, I was the first one there besides the kitchen crew.
Right.
So.
But you kind of have to get prepared for the day, and I think you handle that pretty quick. You realize that pretty quick.
That worked quite well. Plus, the traffic was so much easier at 6 in the morning.
Right. Right.
So, Mike, I do want to mention that I had heard a story, a rumor about you, because you mentioned you got there first before anybody. Now, confirm this rumor that because it influenced me positively to go to work every day, and I never missed a day, very rarely missed a day. I had heard that you never missed, except for one late plane trip. You weren't able to arrive.
Yeah, no, I had very good attendance there.
Yeah.
No, I'm very blessed to have good health.
Oh
So-
yeah, that was amazing because not too many people. I can't say that, but I think that one time you did, your plane was late or something. You called me, and I think I covered you, and I think I was the only one who ever did that for you, probably because you were always there.
Yeah, that's probably true. But they used to give bonuses if you had a year without any absences.
Yes.
And it was a nice bonus.
It's a smart thing to do. I think they should keep that. I wish they would keep doing that because it makes you want to, hey, yeah, I got to get to work, you know?
And it impacts teachers when you have to cover a lot, other teachers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, that's very true.
And you don't want to do it if you're the one always on time. Like, wait, why am I covering all the time? And you know how that is, Mike, politics. Mike, this week, Ruben and I read a couple of short stories, or at least a couple partly of Sherlock Holmes. And how did you teach that before? I know you have a couple things you want to show us, but how did you teach that?
No, I was really lucky. The book room had a class set of Sherlock Holmes short stories, and they had been adapted for easier reading and modernized. So, and they were, considerably shorter than the originals. So I was able to do a story in just 2 or 3 days or something like that. And on Fridays, I would always show them the Jeremy Brett versions. That was a British television version of the stories. And they're like 45 minutes long. But they had to answer questions while we were watching. I had a handout for that. And they just absolutely loved it. And you mentioned having things in the room. Well,
Yes.
I had this. And I didn't bring this to the classroom. Well, I did one year, and the first time I used it. And all the kids say is, "Man, can you smoke weed in that thing?"
Where do you put the weed?
Of course they did.
We call that now realia, right? The items you bring to the classroom to show. Now, this is one thing that popped in my head. Did you have any problems with theft, maybe, or because these are your prized possessions, right?
No. In all the years I was there, I had a lot of antiques like this magnifying glass. It's about 140 years old. This is
oh wow.
This is a police lantern. It's an oil burning thing, but it's
nice.
Are you there? I just lost you.
Yes, I got you.
Okay. This is an early version of a flashlight. There you are. Okay, I lost you. But this is from the London Police Department about 1880.
Is that a real one, or is that
This is all the stuff I had was real because one of my passions is collecting antiques that have to do with Sherlock Holmes. So I would go on eBay and I would find things that I could use in my classroom. And in the back of the room, I built kind of a Sherlock Holmes living room. I had a fireplace, an artificial fireplace, a carpet, all these antiques, oil lamps, just you name. London Police Department handcuffs.
Oh, nice.
They called them Darbies. The kids love the handcuffs. They would handcuff each other.
Would you? Yeah, I was gonna say, would you allow them to touch it and kind of feel it?
I told them, please be careful, but this stuff is here for you to handle. Some things, no, because they're very fragile. But the handcuffs, the magnifying glass, the lantern, yes, they were allowed to handle that stuff.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's just so valuable for kids to be able to see it when they're reading it, because you're reading the stories and then you're saying, these are some of the items that I have here. I mean, they must have ate that up.
They really enjoyed that. Yes.
And I can see how one of the struggles I have when I teach a story or a novel is I ask myself, will they remember this? How meaningful is this? And I can see how if you bring some of these artifacts in, the picture, the visual, and sort of the kinesthetic idea of touching something helps them, hold on to that for a longer period of time.
Yes, I think so. I have a lot of former students on Facebook, friends, and they mention these things quite often, that they enjoy being able to do that kind of stuff, to handle these items and to read these stories. They remember it quite well.
I've always wanted to ask you a couple questions on Sherlock Holmes. One is, where did this love come from, and where did you start reading him and enjoying him and bring him to your kids?
I wish I had a good answer for that. I don't know. I think I mentioned the actor who played Sherlock Holmes, Jeremy Brett. He was in, it wasn't BBC, but it was one of the British networks that recorded all of these Sherlock Holmes stories. And I watched those back in the 80s before I became a teacher. And I just love these stories. These are really good. So I started reading all these Sherlock Holmes things.
Oh.
Then I became a teacher, and like I say, I got very lucky. I found a class set of these abridged versions of the stories, which made it so much more accessible to the kids. It wasn't old Victorian British vocabulary. It was more accessible to them.
And it makes sense because they're short stories. So like the one I read this week was 10 pages, and it's not like daunting to them, right? They're like, well, we could do this in a class period.
Right.
My second question on Sherlock Holmes, Mike, is, and maybe this might be tough for you to answer, but what do you think, Robert Downey Jr. or the British version? Which one do you like more?
Well, the British version is more true to the original stories, so I prefer. But I actually like the Robert Downey stuff because he put a different edge on things. He just presented different. He's much more of a manic person, and whereas the real, if I can say real, Sherlock Holmes is quite self-controlled.
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. presents a more excitable version, but I liked the movies, and I think the third one is coming out next year.
That'd be good. I've been looking forward to that. I saw them both, the British and the American, the recent ones, and yes. I love them all. I just keep eating them up, and I think the public obviously wants more because they keep asking for more, right?
Yes, they do. Yes.
I think it's typically I don't like condensed versions of things, but I think you have to do it for Sherlock Holmes. It's so Victorian at times, and that I actually like that, but I could see middle schoolers might have a challenge. So I think those are important. But there's also with Sherlock, there's some darkness in there that I could really pop. I mean, Count of the Baskervilles, they kidnap a girl, they put her in a chamber and lock her up for.
Yeah.
Well, who knows what's going to happen? But there's a little bit of that Victorian edge too, which I think is might appeal to them.
I think it did appeal to them. Yes.
I also want to mention, because you said now this might be a rumor from my students, but I remember them saying, "I can't wait till we go to Corwin's class today. We're eating chocolate cake." What?
That was for the outsiders.
The outside. It's okay. So the rumor's true, and I thought that's interesting. I like that.
Well, it was a difficult thing to make happen. I think instead of, I tried cake. I made my own cakes for a few years, and I was told, "Oh, you can't give them food. If they got sick, they could sue the school." And I thought, "Oh, come on."
Yeah.
In the story of the outsiders. Pony Boy and his two brothers, they have chocolate cake and chocolate milk for breakfast in the morning. Nice. So I told the kids, when we finish this book, we're going to have what were they called?
The Socs and the
it was the greasers.
The greasers, yeah.
They were called the greasers. Yeah, we're going to have a greasers breakfast. And so after a few years, I just went into chocolate cupcakes. I would go to the store and I'd just get lots and lots and lots of chocolate cupcakes. And I would buy gallons of chocolate milk and have little paper cups for them. They loved it. And then
very good.
Class, they were all jacked up on sugar. And the teacher in the next class said, "What the hell did you do?"
We used to share students, remember? I mean, my kids would go to your class and then that it's funny when Ruben mentioned that, I had forgotten about the cake. And
I forgot about it too. It's been quite a while since I've done that.
Well, no, it's another great example of connecting the text to real life, and it helps them remember it and make it enjoy it. And they connect it to enjoyment. Like, the book is enjoyable because it tastes like cake. You know, there's something very wise about that.
There's something about chocolate, that's for sure.
I was just talking to a newer teacher this morning, actually, about connecting to students. And I did say to him, I go, one of the things that you have going for you is that you're young. You connect to them. I go, for me, I have to work at it. But I feel like, Mike, you never lost connecting with them. I feel like that was something, it seemed like you were very conscious of that, trying to get them involved and so forth. And
well, it was all kind of in the approach. I tried not to come across as a strict disciplinarian. I didn't want to be their friend either, but I thought I could be something in between. Yeah. And I would start the class after I took attendance and turned that in. I would get up front and, well, I can't compare myself to Johnny Carson, but I would tell them some jokes, you know, personal stories or just funny things that had happened, and get them to laugh a little bit. And then I said, okay, time to get serious. We have to get down to our lesson. So
well, you got them. You hooked them in. You grabbed them, got their attention, especially middle school kids. I always tell people that's the toughest group, and you did it for 21 years.
I do want to mention that as you said, Mike, you want to relate and connect to your students. You have a shirt that says "Let's eat kids," so there is that.
Oh, wow. Very nice, Michael. Very nice. Same old Corwin.
Oh, you see, I didn't see the set. I get it, English teacher. The comma makes a big difference.
Very cool. Hey, Mike, we, you know, I'm very blessed to have you as a friend, not only, you know, here, but also on the social media. And I love seeing your posts regarding the Beatles and so forth. And we wanted, Ruben's going to lead this piece, but regarding the Fab Four. And I'm not sure if I know anybody who really loves them as much as you do. And because I know you've been to, I think you've been to London a few times, correct? And so, Ruben, I'm gonna let you start our little Beatle piece.
So I was telling the story off, off air, however you want to put it. That on the background here we have the Revolver album. Yes. The last birthday gift my father gave me was a record, like a turntable, record player / CD, tape player. First thing I bought was Revolver. Second thing I bought was, of course, Abbey Road. What were you going to say about Abbey Road, Mike?
Oh, I think that was their last or next to the last album that they produced and was released. And some of the stuff is so fantastic. I felt we had to do a poetry section every year. The literature book that we used, the class books, didn't have a lot of poetry, and what they had was early 1800s stuff that kids wouldn't really get into, wouldn't care too much about. I did try, but then I thought, well, why not try something modern? And how about just using the lyrics of Beatles songs as poetry? And the stuff reads so well. And I would, pass out the lyrics to the kids, and we would listen to it, and they would follow along on the handout. And then we would talk about, they had to answer questions, comparing one song to another or what it was about. And so many of the Beatles songs are about emotions, about love and about friendship and things like that. And the kids really got into that. So it just worked. And I was happy to see years later, as they got into high school, and Elizabeth Center was a K through 12 school. So I would see the kids, they would come to my room when they were in high school, and they'd be wearing Beatles shirts. So I thought, well, that's quite a nice thing.
Oh, man. They're still relevant today. But I don't want to say more. I know you have some, but they're so
that's
awesome.
A great idea. That's a great idea because then, of course, my big gripe is today's music. some of the students don't know about the past.
Right.
And so then you could play the music, and then you get to hear the Beatles after you show them the lyrics. But I want to play a little kind of a game with you, Mike, so to speak. And it's we'll call it the Beatles bracket. And the Beatles Twitter account had not a contest, but like a poll, and they turned it into a bracket of the great Beatles songs. What is the most popular? What do the fans say? And we won't go through all that because it's a lot of songs, but we're going to do a Sweet 16. So if you could think of a Sweet 16, and we're going to break it up into regions of the Fab Four: Paul region, John, George, and Ringo. They have their own reasons, and we'll go over it. But I'm going to see what you think of and what your call will be, and then I'll tell you who actually won. By the way, the Beatles Twitter is pretty cool. We were talking about Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Before I get into the bracket, now I like Maxwell Silverhammer. Don't you, Mike?
I like all the Beatles songs, some more than others. But no, Bang Bang Maxwell Silverhammer.
Yeah. So they have this anecdote about that song. Are you ready?
Yeah.
John Lennon says, "That's Paul's. I hate it."
Oh,
because you've heard that?
Oh, I had not heard that John Lennon was there. Okay.
So look what else he says. Because all I remember of the track, he made us do it 100 million times. He did everything to make it into a single, and it never was, and it never could have been. But he put guitar licks on it, and he had somebody hitting iron pieces, and we spent more money on that song than any of them in the whole album.
I did not know that. Wow.
George Harrison's take on the song. Sometimes Paul would make us do these really fruity songs. I mean, my God, Maxwell Silverhammer was so fruity. After a while, we did a good job on it, but when Paul gets an idea for an arrangement in his head, but Paul's really writing for 14-year-old audiences now anyhow. Wow. Ringo Starr's comment: the worst session ever was Maxwell Silverhammer. It was the worst track we ever recorded. It went on for effing weeks.
Hey, we have kids. Come on.
It went on for bleeping weeks.
Yeah.
I thought it was mad.
Oh boy.
Paul McCartney's take: they got annoyed because Maxwell Silverhammer took 3 days to record. Big deal.
Wow.
Pretty cool, huh?
Paul McCartney had his own beef with what was that song? Oh, The Long and Winding Road. I think the last recording on one of the albums. I forget which one, but he didn't like it because their producer, George Martin.
Yeah.
He added lots of orchestration to it, and Paul just despised that. He thought it was meant for piano accompaniment only. Yeah. And in fact, I loved The Long and Winding Road because of orchestration.
Yes.
But Paul, no, that wasn't his taste.
So funny.
By the way, you mentioned Abbey Road, I think was their last album, but I think technically they released Let It Be last or something like that.
They did.
I think you're right. Yeah, I always get confused on that.
Because they did that, yeah.
Okay. Now, here it comes. The Beatles bracket.
Okay.
We'll start with the John region.
Okay.
A Day in the Life versus Lucy in the Sky. Who wins that one?
Day in the Life for me.
A Day in the Life. I really liked, but what was the other one again?
Lucy in the Sky.
Lucy in the Sky. Boy, they're both so good. But A Day in the Life, definitely like that one better. Yeah.
Very great song, isn't it, Mike? And don't you? I don't know if you heard this before, but that's a combination of John and Paul. John had a song that he couldn't figure out. Paul had that middle, woke up, got out of bed, pushed the, that whole thing. Yeah. That was Paul. And then they just said, let's just combine these two. And out came.
You can tell when you listen to it, you hear John sing, if you know his voice, and then it switches. There's a little instrumental, and then it's all Paul.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Very cool. Okay. Second, between John Region, between Eleanor Rigby, Strawberry Fields.
Oh God, they're both classic. They were on 45 records. They were on the A side and B side, the two of them. And I wore out both sides of that 45 record.
Wow.
Oh boy, which one? God, I couldn't give you Strawberry Fields is so interesting. It's very intense. But oh gosh, I'd call it a draw.
Oh no, we can't do that.
Throw red flag, Ruben. Throw red flag.
I'm gonna throw a flag on the play, but I'm gonna pick one for you because you spoke more about Strawberry Fields.
I think so too. Strawberry Field.
Well, I would have to pick that then. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely like Strawberry Fields.
Great.
By the way, Eleanor Rigby, John Lennon said that the beginning verse was Paul's and the rest was his.
Really? Oh, that's one of the kids like the best. I spent quite a bit of time explaining the story to them, how it's about this lonely woman who dies childless and friendless. She's buried and nobody comes to the funeral.
Yeah.
And it turns out Paul says, I just made up the name. But then they found that Paul had cut through a churchyard on his way to school every morning, and there was a grave for Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah. And you're right. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess I just mentioned that because some people connect the song more to Paul, just like your anecdote.
Yeah.
But John Lennon, I guess, wrote
most of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Now we got to go with Day in the Life versus Strawberry Fields.
Again, no, they're both so good, but they're such different pieces. I like Strawberry Fields just because I like to sing along to it. I don't have a good singing voice, but let me take you down.
It's a beautiful song, Ruben. It's a beautiful song.
We have a winner from the John region.
Okay.
Oh, but we're not done, Mike. We're
All
not.
right.
We are now on the George region. Come Together versus Across the Universe.
I like Across the Universe.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I really like them. But again, they're both quite good. But Across the Universe always gets me. Yes.
Blackbird versus While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
These are both Harrison songs?
So I'm going to explain that because that was confusing to me too. I think they threw a little bone to George because he worked on the song. He did work on the song.
Oh, the music part, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
But Paul
wrote the lyrics.
Wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Paul wrote the lyrics to Blackbird. I didn't know that George had much to do with it.
Wow.
So, I love Blackbird. It's one of my favorite songs by the Beatles in general. What was the other one?
While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, that's a great George Harrison. That's one of his best. I honestly think George Harrison was one of the great guitarists of our time.
Amen.
He doesn't get mentioned that much when they have lists of the best guitarists, but he's up there. He really is.
So it sounds like it's Blackbird?
For me, yeah.
Blackbird versus Across the Universe.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with Blackbird again.
And now the winner between Strawberry Fields and Blackbird?
I go with Strawberry Fields.
Wow.
Right.
Very good.
Okay. Now, end it off.
You're putting me on the spot here.
But good songs, though, Mike. They're all good songs.
To me, the Paul region, I think it might be more challenging. Here we go. Hey Jude versus Penny Lane.
Penny Lane is one of my all-time favorites. I really love it.
You surprised me there.
Hey Jude is a good one. I've been to 3 or 4 Paul McCartney concerts, and it always ends with Hey Jude, and the audience sings along with the, na 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 na, and it's just such a great piece. Everybody, you've got tens of thousands of people all singing along to that thing.
Oh.
So yeah, I do like that. Yes.
the next Paul standoff would be Yesterday versus Here Comes the Sun. I will say about Here Comes the Sun, of course, George Harrison did it, but the reason why Paul McCartney, and I think this is the reason it's in the region, is because he recorded it, and Harrison and McCartney were the only ones, and Starr. John Lennon wasn't even around, had nothing to do with it because he was in a car accident. Did you know that, Mike?
I did not know that. No, it's new.
Yesterday, yeah. Yesterday, Here Comes the Sun.
They're again, both of them are good, but Yesterday is, I would say, my number one Beatles song. Period.
Oh wow!
You buried the lead. You
destroyed the bracket.
You destroyed our bracket too early. But we'll just go over what I'm gonna just say. Let me just go through it. But talk about Yesterday, why it's your favorite.
I don't know. It's so simple. It's only 2 minutes and 10 seconds long, but it's such. The lyrics are so good, and the tune is so good. And actually, Paul kind of did it by himself. None of the other Beatles are in it. It's just a string octet. I think a string octet.
Nice.
It's gorgeous. It's a sad song. He lost somebody. He doesn't know why. I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. And boy, the students really got that because 8th grade, they've all had little romantic ideas and things, and sometimes it doesn't work. So they know what a heartbreak feels like. And I think that's one reason I like that song so well. I was going to say I've got go in every room of my house, and I'm always asking Alexa to play that song.
Oh, really?
So, I can be in the bathroom brushing my teeth. Hey, Alexa, play Yesterday. I hope she does.
Here's Yesterday.
No, stop.
There she goes.
Yeah.
I won't go through the rest, but I will mention a couple of songs.
Alexa, stop.
There were songs on the Ringo region, by the way, such as "In My Life." Was going to go up against. What were we going to say?
That's my number one John Lennon song, "In My Life."
In My Life, okay.
Yeah, I really like that song.
Why is it in the Ringo region?
I think it's in the. And you know what else is in the Ringo region? Something.
Oh yeah, Something.
Why?
Because of the drum parts are cool.
But Something is like, I think Harrison's best. I would think.
I know, but they're trying to give a bone to Ringo, please.
How about Octopus Garden?
I like Octopus Garden, and at the very end of oh my gosh, I don't know if it's the White Album or what, but the last song is Ringo singing "Good Night." It's a very short piece, and it never got any airtime on the radio, but it's a wonderful little piece. Ringo's voice isn't, it's not quite Paul McCartney or John Lennon's, but it's quite good. I've been to a couple of Ringo things at the Greek Theater.
Oh.
And he usually ends with "Good Night." It's quite a good song. So
there was an old joke attributed to John Lennon where they said they asked John Lennon, supposedly, there's an addendum to this, but John, is Ringo the best drummer in the world? And he said, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
But no.
But have you heard that before?
I've heard it, but I'm not sure if I
okay, I think you're
agree.
I don't think your name's not Mike, but have you heard that before, Mike?
Yes, I've heard that a long time ago, but I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
So John did not say that. He didn't. They attributed it to him, but it was a comic that had said that, and then they flipped it to John. And what ended up happening was it only buried Ringo more in his self-consciousness, but he's an incredible drummer.
Oh, he is. He's fantastic. Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay. Here, There, and Everywhere was also going to be mentioned. Off the Revolver album, John Lennon has said that it is the best song on that album and one of his favorite Beatles songs, Here, There, and Everywhere. And it's fantastic.
I liked it so much, I used it in my wedding. When I got married, I had a friend of mine play that on piano as my bride-to-be walked down the aisles, Here, There, and Everywhere.
Oh, nice. So, wow, what a cool little
Some people even ask me, so why would you pick a Beatles song for a wedding march, as she's coming down the aisle? I says, I just like it. I think the lyrics, the whole song is fantastic.
And your bride was cool with it too, huh?
She also liked the Beatles, yes.
Nice.
Art Garfunkel said that if music is the perfume of our environment or of the air, something like that, he said, "Here, There, and Everywhere" is the perfect example of that.
I would agree. I think Art Garfunkel's a smart guy.
And then we were going to have Let It Be against something. Let It Be, what can you say about it? I mean, of course, an incredible song.
Oh, I think it's one of Paul's best, Let It Be.
If you had to choose between Yesterday and Let It Be, and obviously Yesterday's your favorite song, that would be better. I mean, you would pick that one, huh?
He would pick Yesterday.
Let It Be would be up there, yes.
But Mike, do you know the anecdote or the story of something and Frank Sinatra?
Oh, Frank Sinatra said, and I went to a Frank Sinatra concert where he sang that.
Jeez, I hate you. You went to all these great concerts.
I used to have money. No, he said he thought that was the most beautiful love song he had ever heard.
Yeah.
And for Frank Sinatra, who sang nothing but love songs, that's really saying something.
Yeah.
So.
George Harrison had said too that he wasn't much of a fan at the time of Frank Sinatra, so he didn't think much about that. He was wanting and then he realized his mistake later, and he said, "No, this was big." And when Smokey covered it, and Ray Charles, he said that was a big deal when Ray Charles covered it. But that was, that was nice. That's cool that you got to see Frank Sinatra sing.
Got to hear him sing that song. It was wonderful.
Weren't you going to say though, Ruben, that Sinatra thought that McCartney and Lennon wrote the song?
Oh, sorry, I blew it. Yes, you're right.
No.
He said that is my favorite Lennon McCartney song. And for those who don't know, George Harrison wrote the song. Okay. By the way, you picked Yesterday, beating Strawberry Fields for the all-time great. In the poll, Beatles Twitter poll, many weighed in. What ended up happening was In My Life won for the Paul region, or actually the Ringo region, which is kind of weird. But it lost to A Day in the Life.
Oh,
wow.
So. I know A Day in the Life is kind of psychedelic. It talks, I don't know, it's just a different song than Yesterday or the others. Yeah. So.
Well, I think this was fun, and I thank you for participating, Mike.
Thanks for doing that.
I was kind of, well, not nervous, because I know you guys both, and I know you're wonderful guys. But I just, I thought, gosh, I don't have much to say, but you made it fun. I appreciate that, both of you.
Appreciate that. Well, you know what? With that, we're going to say goodbye to our audience. Okay. And thank you for joining us with Mike Corwin today. And we're going to see you soon on Pod and Deliver. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ruben. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Okay.